Yeah, I walk the block like a young lord, a slum dog. Amongst the war-torn liquor store, gun store, bodega like a general store where you could get you some raw or whatever you want, it's all yours. Fiends nodding off on the milk crates, DTs hiding out trying to build case. Repeat offenders selling cause their bill's late, and they don't see another way, now that's an ill fate. Brother trying to make sure his appeal straight. Remember came back from Kuwait with a steel plate. Shit is real, even Steve Jobs died. These kids don't wanna idolize guys to Bill Gates. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world now. It's just the way of the world. Pulling up to Zuccotti in your Bugatti. You probably just don't get it, you bourgeoisie. You probably wasn't expecting this new posse. Trying to make a change, you know who's on me. Huh? You know who's on me. You know who's on me. You know who's on me. Move calmly. For real, they pop pills and shoutin' YOLO now. On some don't look back shit and don't look down. Everybody wanna have a colder style. Rather be a Colin pal than a Goma pal. That's that gangster mentality. People got it all crooked. Wanna be a real crime family. Ain't up on them Bin Ladens in the bushes, it's a damn shame. You still quoting Scarface. Cliché than the car chase. And if you saying that it's art for art's sake, then I'm just saying don't get caught counting cars, ace. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world now. It's just the way of the world. Pulling up in your Lex in front of the jet. Say you ain't even from there, something suspect. Show some respect, at least show some sense. You trying to connect, that's a stretch. You trying to contest. You want who's on me, huh? You want who's on me. You want who's on me. Move calmly. Ayo, EMP's the army. Better yet, the National Guard. Better yet, international's ours. After the party is the anarchy. That ain't a plan hardly. Man, don't even start me. Know what I don't like? I won't lie. It's exploitation, trying to play both sides. Disenfranchise youth on the block. Think a revolution starts just by shooting the cop. You wanna ruin two families? That's what that is. So focus on the bullet, we forgot about the ballot. And when your hands are already bloody, what's a little more? In the struggle, hope there's not another civil war. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world now. It's just the way of the world. Pulling up to Zuccotti in your Bugatti. You probably just don't get it, you bourgeoisie. You probably wasn't expecting this new posse. Trying to make a change, you know who's on me. Huh? You know who's on me. You know who's on me. You know who's on me. Move calmly.
Sick for this one. Sick for this one. Sick for this one.
The thing about hip hop today is it's smart. It's insightful. The way that they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable. And a lot of these kids, they're not going to be reading the New York Times. That's not how they're getting their information.
My hip hop will rock and shock the nation. Hip hop culture is more than music.
Peace to you and speak the truth. Show 'em what peace can do when there is for you.
My hip hop will rock and shock the nation. Rap is something you do. Hip hop is something you live.
So hip hop didn't invent anything, but hip hop reinvented everything.
This is Baby Girl Faces, and this episode is brought to you by
All right, here we are. Peace and love. Peace, love, unity, and having fun. How y'all doing? It's your man, Manny Faces. It's been a minute since I've done this. I'm a little rusty. Please let me know if everything sounds good, tastes good, feels good, smells good up on the audio video tip. It's your man, Manny Faces. This is Hip Hop Can Save America. We're a podcast, but we also do a live stream show. Try to do it every Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Hence why we're here now. I was gone for a few weeks. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a dope live stream to step to, but I'm here. Peace and love to some people checking in on the check-in. Shouts to Jennifer sending me I look and sound good. I know I do. I meant the audio, but you could, me, I understand. It's a compliment. Peace. Shouts to Bob Knutson. Shouts to Volume 2 Reloaded. Chosen Hip Hop. Peace to the friends. And of course, our big super supporter, Andrew Wang, who's out there. Nelson, what up, Nelson? Nelson's in the building. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I haven't done this in a couple weeks. I've been working really hard on some stuff, though, that I think you're going to actually like. So if you like the idea that hip hop can save America and the stuff that we do here to try to use hip hop music and culture, not use, I want to say like use is a bad word. We always want to kind of, caveat that. We want to incorporate hip hop music and culture in other aspects of society to help make the world a better place. Hip hop for the greater good. We do it we talk about it. Some of us do it. And I talk to the people that do it in worlds like education and health and wellness and science and technology and politics and activism and social justice and the fine arts. A lot of places that people don't think hip hop really has a place in America or the world, but those of us who know. And so what I do is I bring this to the forefront through this podcast, through this live stream, and through the newsletter that we send out. So without too much banter, just in case people are here for the first time and like, what is this? Who's this guy? What's this all about? That's what we do. We talk about it. I usually interview people. We have an interview tonight that I'll show. It's a shorter interview. It's not a full. It's actually an on-site interview. And you'll notice that by the sort of degraded audio quality. So I'm going to apologize in advance. But it's with J1, who is the vice president of music programming at Sirius XM satellite radio, basically, and especially with a focus on hip hop. So J1 is a good dude. I've met him in the past. We talked on site at the Howard Hip Hop Studies Conference. So when we talk about ways that hip hop can help, improve society and uplift humanity, one of the ways we do that is in education. Occasionally, there are gatherings of hip-hop minded folk who work in education. And one such event happened at Howard University just last month for the second year in a row. Howard University has a long history with hip-hop. We'll talk about that real quick as I recap the Howard Hip Hop Studies Conference. I think it's really important to put on the record. There was not a lot of media shows up to these events. We don't hear a lot about these kind of events in hip hop media. Obviously, hip hop media is very, very concerned right now about other matters, serious legal challenges that are facing some of hip hop's largest moguls. But there are more stories in hip hop besides that. And case in point, I want to point you to the newsletter. We sent out an edition today. How do I switch this to this? I'm a little rusty. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all still hear me? Yeah, you can. Okay, good. So there's a newsletter that accompanies this podcast and this live stream. It's called Hip Hop Can Save America. It's at mannyfaces.substack.com. That's me. That's my Substack. But we send out information regarding these topics. So there's a lot of things to talk about. There's some stuff I'm going to share with you that's in the newsletter. I want to share with you, and we can talk about in the chat and give me some, your questions, your feedback about anyone who has any thoughts about any of these stories or really ways that that this concept, this idea of hip hop can save America. I have been busy, and there will be new things to talk about, new expansions. I've hinted before. I'm just waiting for some final words. But there's a book. There's a book coming, and it has to do with all of this. So stay tuned for that. There's also possibly a new organization coming. So stay tuned for all that. But anyway, the newsletter's for free. You can subscribe at mannyfaces.substack.com. I'll put it in the chat real quick. Thanks for bearing with me. I used to have a button that would type all this stuff for me. But anyway, so So things are happening. So I've been really busy, and I was at the conference. I was at the Harvard. I was at the Howard, although Harvard has a hip hop studies conference too. These things happen all over the world. So let's talk about the conference first. Then we'll talk about some hip hop news stories that aren't about dumb-ish and aren't about, whatever might be circulating in the other media outlets. So once again, tonight we will have this recap, and then J1. I'll do the interview soon because I know that some people who are tuned in, can't be here all night, and I want to talk to J1. I want you to hear the talk I had with J1. Again, Vice President of Music Programming at Sirius XM. Sirius decided to do a sponsorship of the Howard Hip Hop Studies Conference. By the way, this was the schedule, all the different sessions. It was a really well attended conference at Howard University. I do love DC. I do love Howard. I like their conference last year. I presented and I moderated a panel last year, and this year I moderated a film Q&A discussion. There's a documentary that was done by Chuck D. Chuck D from Public Enemy was a artist in residence at UCLA, and they did a documentary called oh gosh, sorry, I'm a little rusty. I should have had that with me. It was called I just want to get it right. I kind of know what it is. Just bear with me for a sec. In the Hour of Chaos, hip hop, art, and activism with Public Enemy's Chuck D. And so I moderated the Q&A after the film, the documentary, with H. Samuel Aleem, Scott Brown, Dr. Scott Brown, and Dr. Tabia Shawwell, who are professors at UCLA. Now, you know what? I didn't have this planned. I should have. Chaos, Chuck D. Doc. I want to see real quick if there's a I don't think there's a trailer for it. That's what I was looking for. Anyway, so it's out. It's a documentary. It was a good documentary. It talked about hip hop, art and activism within hip hop's history, and again, sort of what they're doing at UCLA. UCLA has an interesting hip hop studies program there as well, and they're working classes and of course some research. And so again, there's a bunch of people that are doing these things. The Hip Hop Studies Conference was great. 3 days. I actually have some photos which we can flick through while we're talking. There were, we often say to academics, there's Andrew Wang, there's me. We often say to, the hip hop folk who are, that these shows, especially this show, talks a lot about academia, and it does. There's a lot of focus on hip hop education. It's an interesting place where these worlds combine because you can bring class work into higher institutions. You can bring research, and you can develop ideas and put some literature, research data behind some of these things. And so these conferences are really interesting because you'll hear from people who are, doing programming either in schools. Great program out of Baltimore, the Montgomery School District, about using hip hop in the high school level. We talk about it a lot in college. Here was a great program in Montgomery County in Baltimore where they're using it in the high school level. And of course, we talk about this a lot because what we see is that when we incorporate hip hop into sort of educational settings, it's not just about the music, right? It really does give you a look at the history of hip hop, the history of society that sort of aligned with it. So there's always a sociological aspect to it. What was happening in New York City in the time that hip hop kind of came to be. Then you get into economics, you get into political stuff, you get into, what was happening nationally as well as regionally, politically. You talk about things like gentrification. You talk about things like redlining. You can get into it, and a lot of people don't want to get into those topics. I understand. But that's where you start. When you start with hip hop history, you don't start with, they were making music, they were jamming, right? They were in the streets, they were, then there was the gangs and they stopped fighting. That too, you know what I mean? But you actually start with, when you talk about the history of hip hop, you talk about the history of New York City, and then again, also how nationally, politically, urban cities were being dealt with in the 1970s. You give young people a real lesson, and you tie it in with music, and it's interesting because now you start getting into names that they've heard of, and you can now tie it into newer newer artists and newer movements. It's actually a really good way to get a lot of these ideas, not just music. Then you can get into lyrics, and you can get into songs, and you can get into emotions and social and emotional learning, and you get into all kind of things that our counselor friends use, that our counselor friends incorporate hip hop into their therapy practices, their traditional ways of doing mental health therapy and school counseling to connect with young people on that level. So there's so many exciting ways that we talk about on this show very often. And we have people that come on and talk about these things that you see in a conference like this, because you'll have 17 different sessions of people talking about this work. So it's more than we could have on this show. It's more than we can even talk about. So I just wanted to give props to, obviously, and I think I just saw someone mention Timothy. I don't know if Timothy's here. But our friend Timothy Jones, part of the Hip-Hop Ed Collective, but also part of the, there he is, part of the faculty now at Howard University who put this together. Dr. Messiah Kibona Clark and Dr. Roger Caruth, among others. We did have them on this show. So if you go back to the video feed, and you go back to the podcast feed, you'll hear me talking with Dr. Clark and Dr. Caruth about this program, not just the conference. Howard has introduced a hip-hop minor degree program at Howard University as well. So you'll see. I'm not going to run through all the sessions that happened because you weren't there. So and unfortunately, a lot of these times these things aren't recorded. They're not shown. They are for in person because they're really great to network and talk about these topics. Now, you might not be an academic, and that's fine. Bob, I know, we've talked about this, on the side. Andrew Wang's a music teacher, not necessarily a hip hop studies person, but how does he incorporate hip hop into music education? Hip hop as music or hip hop as an influence in music. Bob, we've talked about this as political, like a way to, hey, what's happening? Oh boy, that's not good. Are we still live? Okay. My display got all crazy, but I'm hoping we're still live. As a way to reach people, we could talk about political activities. We could talk about we have talked about, and I will be talking about some of the ways that politics has been influenced by hip hop, and how hip hop can influence politics in a way that isn't what we normally see, right? Looks like my camera has died. That's not good. Not good at all. All right. This is going to be a real podcast. All right. Let me try to then give you one of the video. We give you the video from the, God, I got to do these shows more often because as you see, things go quirky, and I don't have a side camera. All right. Listen, I'm going to play the video. This was an interview with J1 from Sirius XM radio. He was there, and what I enjoyed, because I did push on him a little bit because I wasn't always sure, like, is a corporate entity coming into a hip-hop education space? We're already talking about some weird things. We're already talking about some weird connections that we have to be careful of, that these connections don't get exploited. Bob, I'll tell you, man, there's like 400 million connections and things happening here. I've upgraded things. It's really quite a setup. And then it just, issues the bed sometimes. So let's play the video while I try to see if I can salvage the video. Yeah, here's my interview with J1. He was there again because Sirius XM was sponsoring the conference, and they had a couple of things going on. But we talked about streaming. We talked about how a major corporation like Sirius can maintain, not maintain, but sort of respect the culture that it's, to be fair, profiting off of very much. So we dealt a little bit with that. Let me see if I can get that going, and I'll try my best to fix this camera situation in the background. Peace and love. Let's go. J1, I appreciate the time. We're here at the second annual Howard Hip-Hop Studies Conference. I'm representing Hip Hop Can Save America. You're representing Sirius XM Satellite Radio. If you could give folks just an idea of your title there, what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, good to be sitting down with you. So, again, my name is Josh J1 Raiford. I'm Vice President of Music Programming for Sirius XM and Pandora. I oversee pretty much hip-hop programming on both platforms. which encompasses great shows like Sway in the Morning, Torre, and various others. On Pandora's side, I'm responsible for our great stations and playlists, and basically helping to create environments where artists can get their music out. We work with the labels on different marketing strategies, rollout plans, and again, we're just trying to amplify hip hop on both platforms.
Yeah. One of the things and that's a busy job. One of the things that I look at streaming platforms, Pandora, Sirius, different than terrestrial radio. To some degree, I think you have to focus on being multi-generational.
Sure.
Right? So, the age range of people who pay for these premium services is higher than like what might listen to terrestrial radio.
Right.
Coming from hip hop, coming from New York, coming from the Mecca, if I may, what goes into your mind when you're thinking about programming to meet some of the challenges of a multi-generational and sort of multi-sub-genre audiences that might be tuned in on any given day to any given hip hop related channel?
So I think that's one of the things that makes Sirius XM so unique and so great, especially for the hip hop audience, is we have so many different channels or topics that you can go to, whether it's on the satellite or on the app. And it's not just like, hey, we're creating these channels. Yes, we have homegrown channels, but we have a partnership with the LL Cool J for Rock the Bells Radio. We still have our partnership with Eminem and Paul Rosenberg for Shade 45. We have Hip Hop Nation, which plays contemporary hip hop. We have stations or channels like Fly that play 90s and 2000s hip hop and R&B. So whatever type of hip hop you're into, whether it's somebody, the soccer mom that wants to hear classics of the 90s, but sometimes wants to hear what her kids are playing, we have that. So we just have many opportunities. And it's not just for listeners, it's also for the artists themselves. L created a platform where you could have a legacy artist play some of their new music as well as their classics, which I think is very important.
Yeah, and was not, you don't see that very often because of course you have the terrestrial radios that went to the throwback format, but they didn't do that. They didn't give the legacy artists who are still releasing. You wouldn't hear Nas's new music on those throwback stations.
Right, and L's done a great job with that. And so is Eminem and Paul Rosenberg with Shade 45. They do a lot of great work or give opportunities for legacy artists or those underground artists to get that mainstream look and get paid for their spins, because SiriusXM does pay out for their spins, pays artists directly. It's something that terrestrial radio doesn't do.
Right, indeed. You're here at the conference. There's a concert tonight. Lady London's performing. Sirius is doing some great stuff. There's a partnership. We'll talk about that. You're doing a talk later today, right?
Yes.
Masterclass kind of deal. What do people expect from what are you going to deliver?
Yeah. So
who's it aimed at?
So really, it's a conversation about the evolution of digital streaming in hip hop and how the two have grown with each other over the years. So really, I'm just going to talk about kind of the history, and you probably know this, when streaming first came out, hip hop was hit the hardest, right? Because the industry hadn't learned how to monetize the streams. So labels were losing money, and who was the first to get cut? The hip hop and urban departments. So we didn't know if an urban department was even going to exist. But like with most technology, the litigation finally caught up to the technology, and it created a big opportunity for hip hop where it exploded once again and became the #1 genre in the world, not just from a pop cultural standpoint, but if you look at the number and consumption, the numbers are there. So we're just going to have those type of conversations, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A for the students to ask whatever they want.
Yeah, that's cool. I do a couple talks, and one of them is looking at technology through the years. As hip hop has invented or reinvented or remixed technology, and I love connecting those dots because you can go back to mixtapes and then put that into peer-to-peer, Napster, and hip hop was always kind of doing it, the way it was supposed to be done, but doing it.
I mean, remember DJ Drama got rated for putting out mixtapes. Yeah. And then fast forward almost 15 or 20 years later, he gets a Grammy for mixtape. So that's like the full pendulum swing right there.
Right. So obviously hip hop's always been the creative force behind the creative force in the music business. So I guess it keeps going with streaming and the opportunities that you're presenting and providing. Speaking more broadly, again, let's talk about this partnership. Why you're here, SiriusXM teaming up with several HBCUs, including Howard. What is that partnership or the initiatives that you're looking to connect with these universities? What's that all about? And then in particular Howard.
I mean, well, for me, I went to HBCU, I went to Morehouse, and I know my experience there really opened me up to different types of music from all over the country. I mean, you know, growing up in New York, we're kind of biased.
A little bit.
We're a little bit. But when I went to Morehouse, it really opened me up to like a 3-6 Mafia project, that to Swisher House, to the Bay Area hyphen movement, wherever, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like HBCUs are just a great resource as far as just Black culture and tastemakers and what's coming out next. There was a reason back in the day that artists would do these college shows for damn near free because they wanted that audience. And it's still a very important audience at the end of the day, not only from the consumer standpoint, but also just for future leaders who are going to be in the industry. So I think partnerships with places like Howard, who have really invested in their hip-hop curriculum and music culture overall, being a resource to them, and also them being a resource to us, is a partnership that just makes sense.
Yeah. But there's been some things in play already, right?
Absolutely. So I mean, from a larger scale, from what we've done with HBCUs is we have our Pathways program, SiriusXM Pathways program, which gives opportunities or full-time jobs to recent HBCU graduates. We've done pop-outs at different HBCUs for their homecoming. So we've done Morehouse, and then we recently do FAMU. We're here at Howard for the Hip-Hop Conference. We recently did an event with Will Tyler on Morehouse's campus, where he just went through and talked about his new album and answered questions from the students. So again, I think it's a two-way street. Yeah, it's great for the colleges and the students, but it's also good for the artists and us as well, because they get to get that feedback from the students who are the ones who are like driving culture,
right,
and listening to their music.
Yeah, I think it's also very respectful synergy because, as you know, like the folks who work in the music industry didn't always reflect the people that were making music. Yeah. So the more of that, obviously, the merrier. I want to ask a question about you being a practitioner of hip hop, right? You're doing some actual the arts, right?
Yeah,
hip hop arts throughout your life. How does that sort of inform your job? In other words, we know that, music and, you're at a place that relies on data and algorithms and all that stuff, but you also, you're from the culture. So you want to protect and preserve and promote the culture as a whole.
Absolutely.
How do you get a chance to do that in your role? And how, there's some challenges to that, I would imagine, because, sometimes, numbers do lie, but whatever. But just having in your position, being able to be in that position to bring some of the culture into the corporate.
Sure. I think for me, I was blessed to have the background of starting out as a DJ.
Yeah.
So that was essentially where my musical background started, curating experiences for different people or different situations, whether I was in the club, corporate event, a wedding, a party and stuff. So when I'm listening to music, whether looking at legacy data, current data, I still have that feeling in me. I could look at the data and sometimes say, okay, that makes sense. Or, okay, I think the data might be a little bit off on this one. Let's give it a little bit more time to develop, because I know that this can develop into something, right? So I think
there's some gut that still works.
There's some gut. At the end of the day, music is still a feeling. It's still an emotion. It's still an experience. So you can't neglect that. At the same time, you can't neglect the data that's available to us. So you have to have that happy medium. So I always try to do that with myself and encourage anybody on my team, saying, hey, let's not just look at the data. Let's use the data as a piece of the puzzle. Right. Let's look at other factors. What's the story with the artists? What's going on in their hometown? What is the overall plan? Right? How do you feel about the music? Is this something that you would listen to? I think also I wasn't always just in the music industry all my life. Like I've had regular 9 to 5s. I loaded trucks for UPS. I was a waiter. I did mortgage sales. So I was that person doing a 9 to 5, fighting traffic, listening to the radio, listening to music. And I always put myself in that person's shoes. Is this something that I would want to listen to coming to and from work?
Okay. Yeah, we're connected back to the reality, of course.
You have to, because at the end of the day, that's who people are making music for.
Right.
Make it for the listener. It ain't for me.
Right.
It ain't for the company. It's for the people that pay their hard-earned money for our service.
That's right. Yes, I'm one of them. Somebody.
Yeah, and we appreciate
that.
that.
It's fine. Very good. We said bringing it back to the reality.
Yeah.
Talking about technology, talking about AI, talking about how some of these, how are those advances in those fields affecting, what happens behind the closed doors of your company and your job?
I think, like any new technology, it's one of those things that you have to do your research and education on.
Yeah.
If you ask 5 different people about AI, you'll probably get 5 different answers. I think it's just, again, it's like how when streaming technology first came out.
Yeah.
Nobody really knew what it was. Some people were embraced it, some people were scared of it. I think you just have to learn about it and continue to monitor how it's going to impact us from a cultural standpoint and a financial standpoint, and just kind of be ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to be in a situation where you're just waiting and then the opportunity passes by. You don't take advantage of it, right? Like, case in point, Blockbuster.
Right.
They had an opportunity to probably be first as far as streaming or doing digital movies and stuff like that, but they were like, no, this is it.
Right.
So I think
Blockbuster is this old chain of stores, right? But that's how bad it is.
That's how bad it is. Right.
Yeah.
But it was literally maybe 15 years ago.
Right.
So I think, the things that we're doing is just like most other companies is doing our research. It's seeing how it fits into what we do on a daily basis, without corrupting the integrity of the music or the listener.
Got it. Pretty much done for you. You can get out of here now. But one question I want to ask you. So the name of my show is, the audacity of it is that hip hop can save America, right? It's the name of the show.
Great name.
Thank you. It's a podcast. It's a live stream. It's a podcast that could use a streaming platform someday. Maybe, I don't know, just hypothetically. It's a really good show. So what we do is we tend to look at the intersections of hip hop and ways that can help improve society and uplift humanity.
Yeah.
Including fields like education or health and wellness or science and technology. All these, like, to some surprising, but to us, like, no-brainer intersections. Without telling you too much of why I named it that or our mantra or our philosophy, what does it mean to you to think that hip hop can help improve lives, livelihoods, and communities around the country?
I mean, there's so many ways that it can't do it. I can't get into all of them, but I'll just go through some that pop up at the top of my mind, right? Yeah. So from an artist standpoint, you hear a lot of artists say that hip hop saved their life, right? From either environment standpoint, what they were doing, but even from an emotional standpoint, it's been an outlet for people to get out their frustrations or whatever demons they may have inside. You'll hear artists say, I put it all in the trap.
Yeah.
Right? It's also created environments or opportunities for people around hip hop, whether you're talking about attorneys, entertainment attorneys, business managers, publishing companies. Now, with social media being a big piece of the puzzle, digital marketing managers, social media managers, influencers, there's so many people who are tied to the hip hop ecosystem that feed off of hip hop.
They don't have to just be the guy on stage.
Right, no, they have to be the guy on stage. And a lot of times, like, I tell artists, okay, you might not make it as an artist, but if you penny sharp, if you thought about being a songwriter, you know how much money you can make and your career could be long, and you can still walk down the block and not get harassed, have to walk around with security.
Good listening.
So,
yeah.
I think there's just so many ways that hip hop can save people and save America from a mental standpoint, from a financial standpoint, and just from a an overall humanity standpoint as far as opportunities. I mean, we talked about DJ Drama, this talk about politics. Remember, you were there. You remember when they were trying to ban hip hop?
That's right.
On Capitol Hill.
That's right.
And then me and you were part of a beautiful hip hop ceremony on that same Capitol Hill. What was it, like a year ago?
Yeah, just about.
Right, exactly. Where you had lawmakers coming in, speaking and praising it.
That's right.
So I think that is just like in full spectrum of what it could be. Or somebody like a Jay-Z who started out as a rapper and has turned into a businessman.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It just, there's so many different ways they can grow. Now this man is curating the school.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's really refreshing to have someone that understands that and comes in with that knowledge in a position like yours.
Thank you.
So I thank you for that, and I thank you for your time here.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Let's do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you.
That was good seeing.
All right. There you go. J1. I still don't have video. God darn it. Well, I tried. we may have to cut it short. Normally, I have a second video camera source, but it's not working. So what am I supposed to do? There's nothing I can do. Oh, well. I did do some upgrades to the studio. And so what happens is you get, you get some things that work and then don't work. So, it's all right. Anyway, I do want to mention one thing. It was very cool about, J1's, what we were talking about was that he talked about something we did at I hate to do this with no camera. You know what? Hold on. Let's see if I have a backup to the backup. Nope. God dang. Dang. All right. I tried, y'all. A very cool thing that happened at the, where we first met when it was at the, oh yeah, all my cameras are gone. That's bad. Bad news bears. Oh well, nothing I can do. Well, I tried. Listen, I'll tell you all about it next week. There's no sense keeping this going, if we can't get the whole vibe. Anyway, let me say this, while I have y'all at least listening. Please tune in to, actually, you know what I can do? I can do this and let's do this. I want you to see this stuff. So it doesn't really matter that you can't see me. You can hear me. And I just want to talk about some items in the newsletter. There's been a lot of, discussion happening. Obviously, the Jay-Z Diddy scandal, everything that's happening has been happening. I want you to go. First of all, if you like that interview, if you like what we're talking about, if it's your first time here, trust me, these things don't normally happen this badly. Everything is kind of crisp and clean with no caffeine. But I appreciate y'all who are here, tuned in and turned up with us. We'll be back Monday. I'll have everything ironed out by next Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, every Monday. And of course, we have the podcast. So you want to go back and check out our past videos. You want to find out more about the Howard University program. I can take you there right now. Look, if you go to hiphopcouldssaveamerica.com, you have all the past episodes. The last three, which I talk about here in the newsletter, the last three episodes are really interesting. Let's just recap real quick. First, I spoke with Dr. James Norris about using hip hop as therapy, including the launch of a new initiative, Rhythms of Healing, and his hip hop therapy certificate program. This is for practitioners, teachers, counselors, and more. What I loved about this interview is that we talked about hip hop as therapy. Now, we've seen hip hop being incorporated as therapy or, merged with traditional therapeutic practices by some of our wonderful friends, Dr. Raphael Travis, Dr. Ian Levy, J.C. Hall, so many people that use hip hop as part of their school counseling or mental health therapy sessions. And Dr. Norris has an interesting approach because two things. Number one, he talks about hip hop as therapy, not as a tool for therapy, like by itself, in of itself, we said. Matter of fact, since we're doing stuff on the fly and, we're making things work, the way we can, I'm going to let's see if I can get funky here. And I think I didn't have a short. I did have a short. Let's see if we could play this. Hopefully you hear this. A lot of folks use hip hop to connect, right?
Yes.
To different, use it to connect to, different cultures or bring folks into educational spaces. But you said there's a difference between connection and healing, and the healing thing is something that has to be explored and utilized more often. So explain that.
Yeah, so just in my research and my work and my engagement with hip hop my whole life, and
Right.
Not necessarily as an artist, but hip hop has just been a part of what I've consumed, my whole life. And along with the research, and what I found is many folk, which I think is important too, is using hip hop to connect or as an intervention alongside of kind of other approaches. Right. And what I'm suggesting is that hip hop alone is its own healing property, right?
In of itself.
In of itself.
Yeah. A lot of folks use hip hop to connect, right?
Yes.
To different, use it to connect to, different cultures. Okay. So there you have an idea what he's talking about. Hip hop as therapy, but also what I loved about his program and his approach, which is different than a lot of others, is that it's not youth oriented. It actually talks about using hip hop as therapy for grown folk, right? For grown-ups, for us. And one of the great takeaways from his the conversation with him, was that as grown-ups trying to deal with young people with their issues, if we haven't taken care of our issues, then it's very difficult to do that because we haven't dealt with our trauma. So if we can accept that hip hop is a great tool for use in therapeutic sessions for young people, which we have plenty of evidence for. Again, I've talked to a bunch of people on the show. They're well represented in the field. There's real authentic ways of incorporating hip hop into mental health therapy. That exists. If we can acknowledge that it exists for young people, we can also now say, hey, wait a minute, that could actually, we're older, but we're of hip hop. We're of the hip hop generation. Many of us identify as hip hop, as part of our culture. And even if you don't, okay, the thing about hip hop, which I'm trying to now get across to everybody, is not only does it present actual, tangible ways to connect with people. Obviously, if you have a common ground, if you have a middle ground, if you can connect via the music and the culture, and we have some common ground, I might be older, you might be younger, but we both, vibe to dope beats. Like, it's just something that we can connect with. Cool. But if you're outside of the culture, you don't have to know hip hop. You don't have to like hip hop. This is what I'm trying to say, Bob, when I talk about connecting with people politically. It's not just tying in, it's not just connecting to their inherent hip hopness. It's using the ways of communicating that hip hop has pioneered. You feel me? So what we're not talking about is directly like, hey, let's talk about these rap songs together. We're talking about, that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that hip hop has pioneered these ways of communicating that, yes, a lot of times do incorporate itself into itself, but also can do this with anything. It's just a way of finding ways to remix and reinvent ways of looking at a thing, whether it's problem solving in business. Doesn't have to be a hip hop business. Doesn't have to be a hip hop solution, but it's a way of seeing that problem and somehow just incorporating a different mindset, which presents a solution in a different way. So we're seeing that in therapy. It's a great conversation with James Norris. So please go back and check that out as well. And as you can see here, also the hip hop at Howard University, the discussion I talked about before. You can, my interview with Messiah Clark, Dr. Clark and Dr. Roger Caruth of the Howard University. They do talk about the conference, which happened already, but they really talk about the hip hop degree program in the university. And I just think it's a great insight as to, yes, Bob, not only a destination, but also a path. That's a very good way of putting it. I think it's a methodology, right? Not just a destination, but a methodology, right? Not just the tools, but the, sort of the ethos, right? So yes. Peace to Emil YX. What up, brother? In the building. And also I had the last of the 3 recent episodes, which y'all might have missed, were available here as a video, also available as an audio podcast, is with Loyola University out in New Orleans, which I love, man. I love New Orleans. We talked about it in this interview, but my mellow Professor Rainey Antoine Jr., a really good episode, which talked about their degree program. So if you look at Howard's new minor degree program, it's hip hop studies. Right. So it's a little bit more than just the music. It's a cultural aspect. It's a sociological, anthropological ways of doing things. Emil, by the way, Emil YX in the chat, by the way, if you don't know who he is, follow him for the international and also, again, educational anti-colonialism way of incorporating hip hop into the lives and livelihoods and communities of folks for betterment, for their greater good. He has written 17,000 books. I'm just writing one book. I have one book that's not even like out yet. And it's taken me 900 years, and Emil's written 730,922 books. So please check out Emil if you don't know who he is. We'll have him on this show. It's long overdue. Even though this is a nationally focused, Emil he's from South Africa, he works internationally, but obviously many of the lessons that he's teaching the world need to be brought back home, as it were, to America. So Emil, I see you, I appreciate you, and it's going to be well worth the wait. That being said, again, Loyola University's Bachelor of Science in Hip Hop and R&B program is sort of a performance artistry. They talk about artist development. They talk about it's a music program. It's a music school. Shouts to Loyola for incorporating hip hop into their program. Fun fact, I interviewed for this job and didn't get the job, but Rainey Antoine Jr. did, and I'm very happy that he did, because he's very, very well suited for this. It's a great interview about what they're doing at Loyola University. So there is an academic twist to some of the last few interviews, but they're really important for not just academics, for people who are I'm trying to get through to this idea that it's not just the music, like hip hop bigger than music. But it's also like Bob said, like a path, a methodology, a way to see the world and fix problems. That's what hip hop can save America is about. So we give you a lot of examples of how this is being done in real life, and folks that are doing that work specifically. And then at some point you're going to say, oh my God, I can see how this is working, or I can work this in my lane, whatever that might be. And so that's kind of the lessons we're trying to, trying to share with everyone. Jennifer, yes, I have a book. I have a book deal. I'm just waiting for some final words. The book's been submitted. It needs to be like looked at, smacked, flipped, and rubbed down, and we'll see what's going on. For anyone watching, my camera's gone, so we're just going to keep looking. I want you to notice that, again, this is the newsletter that I send out. It's at it's called Hip Hop Save America, the newsletter. It's at mannyfaces.substack.com. Please, it's a free subscription, although you can contribute there to this movement of mine. And believe me, every dime helps. And I do have some supporters in the room. I know Andrew's here. I know some folks that actually contribute to the Patreon page or this thing. I haven't even asked. I'm not very good at asking. But believe me, I could just be doing stories about Jay-Z and I'd get paid. So the fact that I'm here doing stories about hip hop culture and all these other wonderful applications, they don't pay you for this. They just don't. They won't. I'm working on some things. We're working on some grants. We're working on some things. But you can help support. So just real quick, again, I'm not, hey, oh, dang it. My banners aren't working either. You can just go to patreon.com/mannyfaces. Andrew, don't remind me that I'm missing a Knicks game. I'm going to do the service that I'm here to do. Damn it. But go Knicks all day. So again, this newsletter that you can get for free, mannyfaces.substack.com, I share all of this stuff. So if you don't know where the next hip hop academic conference is, it's going to be listed there. I know them all. they're going to be listed there. There's one coming up. Oh, I just announced today. I heard about it today. The Ohio State University Hip-Hop Literacies Conference. Shouts to Dr. E, Dr. Elaine Richardson. That's coming up in March 2025. Hip-Hop Feminisms. A whole look at hip-hop feminisms. That's the name of feminisms, plural. So again, a great academic space. You don't have to be an academic. Again, we want you to take what the the academic space has been, sort of more mature than some of these other spaces, these intersectional spaces. But go there, be inspired, listen to people who are doing it in different areas of life, and then apply it to how you can enhance your way of life. It's wonderful. I'm sure Dr. Jay Rawls will be there. Dr. Richardson is an OG. All right. So we give all respect and love to Dr. Elaine Richardson, Dr. E, as she is affectionately known. The Hip Hop Literacies Conference has been going on for a long time. I'll cut to the chase here. There's a call for papers, call for proposals. It's by January 15th, blah, 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 blah. It's in the newsletter. So if you go to mannyfaces.substack.com, if you don't already get my newsletter, it's in your email box if you do. If you don't, just go to mannyfaces.substack.com and you'll see the latest episode. Subscribe for the other ones, and then you'll get all this information. I'll run through a quick couple of stories that were on that, and then we'll get out of here since we're at a, technologically tough. Did I say the Ohio State University? By the way, fun fact, my dad, who was a sociology professor and taught at Rutgers University for a long time, and then the SUNY Old Westbury on Long Island, where I grew up, was also a professor at the Ohio State University. So I have love for the Buckeyes. All right, listen. So shouts to Dr. Jay Rawls, who is professor of hip hop at the Ohio State University, and he was on this show. So again, I got them all, baby. If you doing it, I talk to them. You can find his, I'm not going to look for it now, but you can find his episode on the podcast feed and also here on the video feed. So go back at YouTube videos and blah, blah. By the way, give a thumbs up. I know this, you can't see my gorgeous face, but I'm still giving you good information. Give me a thumbs up, give it a share. Make sure you're subscribed. We want to keep building this thing up. I know I've been gone for a couple weeks, obviously the rust and the technical difficulties, but we will come into 2025 roaring back on schedule. So, what was I saying? So some of the news that we focused on in this episode, just a couple would touch on. So obviously a couple stories I want you to know about that you can follow up on. We did have a lot of RIPs in this, and I haven't done a newsletter in some time. Unfortunately, we had some RIPs. You know of them. Brownsville Ka, a great lyricist, great MC out of Brooklyn, New York, who I covered years ago when I was running Birthplace Magazine, when I was covering New York music and culture in New York. Ka passed away. Just a great body of work. Didn't release that often, but when he did, it was a iconic, monumental release. Great wordsmith. Passed away recently. DJ Clark Kent, of course, a great pioneering DJ, and did so much for the culture, producing and bringing people into the fold. Passed away. Saphir, West Coast MC, legendary dude as well. Passed away. TJ Swan, who sang on all my records, was obviously part of the Juice Crew out of New York, sang on Bismarck E songs, sang on Juice Crew records. Again, a very well-known member of the artistic community in hip-hop, particularly out of the New York scene. And as hip-hop itself reaches its sixth decade, and maybe many of its early practitioners are now in their 50s and 60s and some 70s, we're going to see more of this, unfortunately. So let's try to give flowers when they're here. But as they've passed away, let's also give respect due. So I've linked a few, what I think are the better articles representing each one of those folks who have passed. The second item on this list is that if you haven't stopped to watch Doechie's recent performances, just stop playing and watch Doechii on Stephen Colbert or on NPR's Tiny Desk. Doechie's making a ton of noise right now. Yes, Andrew, thank you for that. I saw that and just didn't have a chance to put that in. It'll be in the next one. We have another passing from the UK Wee Papa Girl MC. Look, I'm only one dude. I could only do it. But thank you for bringing that up and giving love. It's already been noted, and it'll be put in the next newsletter. If you haven't time to watch Doechii, her performances are fantastic. Her album. It's not really an album. It's called a mixtape. But her mixtape, Alligator Bites Don't Heal, is just a great body of work. Everyone's kind of getting up on her now. Been talking about it for a couple years. Certainly for months and months and months. Personally, please understand that there's a wide spectrum of hip hop. That goes for whatever, I don't know, classifications or categories you want to focus on. If you want to talk about women MCs and separate them for some reason from the rest of MCs, fine. But do note that just for, there's a wide spectrum of women MCs that are doing great work. Doechii is just one of many. So if you're just tuned in to Doechii and you're like, oh my God, finally, a woman MC that does, hip hop that I enjoy, don't sleep on Rhapsody, don't sleep on Rock, don't sleep on Tierra Whack, don't sleep on Lady London, who's up at Howard University, don't sleep on Little Sims, don't sleep on Licky Lee 47. Like, don't sleep, don't think because you just caught up with the mainstream, that's the only one. But that being said, please give Doechii her flowers and give her love. She's doing really incredible work, and I'm very happy to see her succeeding and getting on these platforms like Stephen Colbert, Tiny Desk. I shared those links if you haven't. Peace to Jen. Thank you for checking in. We're done soon, but I just we'll follow. And just thanks for coming. Some first timers, and please come back next Monday 9 p.m. I'll have all the technical difficulties worked out, and we'll have more cool stuff like this. Hey, hip hop and anime is a really cool intersection that a lot of people mess with, and we linked to a story. 20 years of Samurai Champloo, the best hip hop anime ever made. So again, intersections, a great story on this. I'm not totally into anime. My son has put me on to a bunch of things. He's an anime head. And then he when I told him about this story, he got mad at himself for not mentioning Samurai Champloo to me. Hey, you're a hip hop head. You want to get into anime? You want to test the waters? It's apparently a good vibe. So check it out. I did a story about Gucci Mane using an entire symphony orchestra. Gucci Mane from Atlanta. Trap music, legend, right? He's been doing trap music. He's been doing, this is a Atlanta Journal-Constitution, so they paywall most of the story. But it's just interesting to see. Atlanta rapper Gucci Mane performs The Road to 1017, a musical collaboration with the Atlanta Pops Orchestra at Atlanta Symphony Hall. We've seen a lot of this happening. I've seen Pharoah Monch do it, I don't know, 8-10 years ago almost. We've seen Nas at the Kennedy Center with a full orchestra. We've seen Jay-Z with a full orchestra. We've seen, I think, Rakim with an orchestra. Jadakiss, as Andrew Wang picks up. Tim from Tim's to Tuxedos or something like that, did a show. So we're seeing rap incorporated with orchestral backing. So it's super dope. It's great. It's not new. It's not surprising. And it's not gimmicky. It's something that obviously if you're doing music and you're doing original creations or you're doing sampling, any type of music can be brought to full instrumentation. And I like it. I got to tell you, I really like when it happens. So keep an eye out for these kind of collaborations. They're happening more and more. As I'd like to try to make sure that we cover different generations as well as different elements of hip hop. We noted a story. I noted a story in the New Yorker, a Bronx family album from hip hop's early days. Puerto Rican photographer Ricky Flores capturing the parties and people that helped shape his teenage years. So this is a really cool. Another photographer. Shouts to the OG photographers from New York City that caught the early days of hip hop. Shouts to our friend Joe Conzo. Our friends Ernie Panicoli, Jamel Shabazz, all the great, early hip hop photographers. Pharoah Monch did a great one in New York a bunch of years back. He's worked with the Pitch Black Brass Band, which I wrote about years ago, Andrew, the Pitch Black Brass Band. I don't know if they're still recording, but they came out with a couple of really good projects and great live performances. The brass band that incorporates hip hop into the mix. Of course, you got the Soul Rebels out of New Orleans. A lot of people using orchestration in hip hop. Anyway, Flores has a slew of of imagery from, the days that hip hop was coming up in 1970s. Obviously, a lot of, as you see there, some of the, the Bronx burning imagery that was, storied at the time. And just, we value these collections as we're hip hop heads. We love to see imagery from the here's obviously we're talking about Kool Herc and Joe Conzo and Tony Tone and some of the Black and Latino groups coming together in the Bronx to really make the early days of hip hop coalesce. So that was really cool. Just if you're looking for visuals, story about Peabody Conservatory. They're down with Johns Hopkins. They also have a Bachelor of Music and Hip Hop degree program that they launched. So that's pretty cool. I think that they say theirs is the first in the country. And then of course we talked about Loyola. It's semantics. Loyola was first as a full Bachelor of Science in Hip Hop degree program. Peabody Conservatory has launched a Bachelor of Music. So it's not the first hip hop undergrad degree, but it's the first Bachelor of Music as opposed to a Bachelor of Science. That being said, shouts to Wendell Patrick up there at the Peabody Institute. Trying to get him on the show to talk about the program. It's very cool. It again shows hip hop and academia being done sort of like in a way that like we want, because we want practitioners. We want people that have been doing this music to be at the helm. We talked about that in the interview with Rainey Antoine Jr., professor at Loyola, about him going to Loyola as a student and then not finding the found a great music program, great music business, like great coursework, great teachers. But when it came to producing and making hip hop and R&B, one of the things he said in the interview again with Rainey Antoine, one of the things that he pointed out was that they didn't quite, he was asking, like, he wanted to make his like 808 drums, the big, deep boom bass drum sound, mix it in a way that, it's tweaked so that it's hitting hard, like the music he's listening to on the radio, the music he wants to make. And he's like, I want to tweak the 808s to make them really punch, like you hear in professionally mastered stuff. And one of the professors just said, hey, just use a bass guitar. And he's like, wait, what? Like, and then where, at the time, I think, T-Pain was going crazy on the radio with songs. And of course, T-Pain's known for his use of auto-tune, which is this technological way to adapt singing, vocals. It's computerized. And, we know what auto-tune is. You know what it is. And one of the professors said, well, if the artist you're working with has to use auto-tune, they can't sing. So don't work with them. And he's like, wait a minute. Like, that's a very sort of elitist way of like, this is the music of the day. This is the contemporary hip hop and R&B, and I'm making it, and I need to know how to use auto-tune. Like, it's part of the toolkit. Like, don't tell me we don't have that option. And that was something that helped him actually start the program at Loyola to say, we need, some producers that actually make this music so that people who do hip hop and R&B would feel welcome coming into Loyola. So that's what that conversation was about. So really dope, story about Peabody's undergrad degree, tying that into Loyola. And again, tying this into the fact that, listen, I don't have a degree, but if you don't think I'm qualified to teach a hip hop history or a sociology of hip hop or hip hop and social justice or hip hop and, and podcasting, which I lecture on, or hip hop and technology, or, hip hop and media, like, I'm just as qualified as anybody else, but I don't have a degree. So sometimes I don't get that look. And once again, shouts to Loyola, who did actually, I was on the short list. They interviewed me, and they have hired people that don't necessarily have the academic credentials, but they are practitioners and they have a body of knowledge. They are what Ben Ortiz, the curator of the Cornell University Hip Hop Collection, called organic intellectuals. We're organic, and I'm an independent scholar. I wish you could see my face when my cameras aren't working. I'm looking at you like, damn it, hire me. You could hire me. Shit. right? We're just as qualified. And so what I'd like to see is the Rainey Antoines, the Wendell Patricks, the Ninth Wonders, who are brought into these spaces, these academic institutions that they'll use hip hop, but they won't be hip hop. Shouts to Dr. Gloria Ladson Billings, who gave me that quote. She doesn't want teachers to use hip hop. She wants teachers to be hip hop. So anyway, stories like that. A great interview with Diggable Planets. A great interview with Debbie Deb, freestyle legend, who you might not know. Debbie Deb, but you will know if you listen to Squabble Up by Kendrick Lamar. She's the singing voice that was sampled in that song, but she was a freestyle singer from back in the, I guess, 80s, and super dope. Like everyone, like has a legacy in music, and so she's being brought back to life. Another good example of how sampling music can actually breathe new life into old artists and their catalogs and their legacies. So a story with that. And a story on the indigenous rap group, their indigenous, I guess, First Nations, Canadian group, Snotty Nose Rez Kids. They are performing at Toronto's Opera House. So again, we're seeing, hip hop from different areas that you're not going to hear any of these stories on your hip hop media. You're not going to hear any of these stories on mainstream news. But I bring them to you in this newsletter. We have Pharrell talking about hip hop and fashion. Connecticut organization called Hip Hop for the Homeless, which does a yearly concert series to raise money to fight homelessness and to fight. I said it uses rap music to fight hunger. Like, are you fighting hunger? I guess so. Yeah, you're fighting. Yeah, okay, you're fighting hunger in Connecticut. So I gave them some props. That was a local news story. Let's watch it real quick. It's a short story. Let's just watch it.
A Hartford hip-hop artist and educator is leading a group of performers whose hearts are set on making a difference in Connecticut's homeless population this holiday season. 42-year-old Joey Battaglia, better known in the local hip-hop circle as Joey Bats, helped launch the nonprofit Hip-Hop for the Homeless. Its goal is to raise money and collect food and supplies for homeless residents throughout our state, and he hopes to increase awareness about the challenges they face.
It's truly indicative of like it takes a village in so many ways. If you have it, if you're able to give something, you'd be so surprised how far that goes. And when you're going home, when you're driving home, when you wake up the next day, you'll just feel like, man, I'm part of that. Like I did that, and that's the coolest thing,
Since 2014, Battaglia has organized a series of local rap concerts each December to work toward achieving those goals. The current slate of 10 shows is already underway, marking the 11th year for the initiative.
All right, so there you go. There you have it. A nice little story. Again, these are the types of stories that you'll find only, I got to say only, there's really nobody else doing this. Only in the Hip Hop Can Save America newsletter, mannyfaces.substack.com. We talked about some B-girls that are up in Buffalo. We got a B-girl, artistic consortium that's happening up there in Buffalo, New York. We talked about art in Ontario. This is actually started in St. Louis, I think, but now it's a art exhibit that's traveling around, maybe Baltimore, traveling around the world and showing some hip hop inspired art. So it's hip hop as fine art. God, so many good things. You don't even hear about this stuff unless you're watching me, or not really watching me. You're watching my screen. But yeah, and so stories like that. Once again, the upcoming events, I'm going to fill this out. This has had like 20 events, and right now there's only a couple. Shouts to our eternal consulting producer, Summer McCoy, who one of the loves of my hip hop lives. If you're in New York City, this is a cool documentary. It's called Cassette, a documentary mixtape celebrating the rich history and influence of the audio tape. Cassette plays out like a mixtape compiled to honor a revolutionary musical format. This is a cool documentary about the mixtape, post-screening discussion with Zach Taylor, I think is a director, and our friend Reagan Summer McCoy. This is happening in a few days, and if I was in New York, I would be there front and center. Go see my friend Summer. Go check that out. And again, the call for proposals for the 2025 Hip Hop Literacies Conference at The Ohio State University happening in March, but the call for proposals is due January 15th. The theme is hip hop, feminisms, culture, care, and justice. So we could talk about, some of the problems in hip hop and we do very often, the misogyny, the violence, the women sentiments, which are playing out in a big way, in a big way these days, as you could tell if you just look at any other, news outlet. Try to do something. Bear with me. Check it out. But we can also talk about, if we want to keep it real, we could also talk about, oh, look, wow, this is horrible tonight. I tried. See, I tried it. I was trying to surprise you with another, nope, didn't work. With another camera. But we could talk about the solutions. We could talk about the people who are trying to either make it better or we're trying to find ways to deal with those problems. And you will see that at the Hip-Hop Literacies Conference. I hope to be there. I went a couple years ago. I did present on hip-hop as social justice journalism. And I enjoyed presenting there, and I love Dr. E. And so check that out. So that all being said, I think that's it. That's what we got. That's what we're working with. We made it work, even though I didn't have good cameras tonight. But it's not about me. Please make sure you're signed up to the newsletter, and we can talk about all these things in greater detail as we move forward. Thank you again. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate you. Thanks to Emil. Thanks to Jennifer. Thanks to Andrew Wang, of course. Thanks to all of our people who who support this. Again, you can support this at patreon.com/Manny Faces if you feel so inclined. It does help, and shouts to the people who do what is it? Patreon, www.patreon.com/Manny Faces. I promise everyone who donates money to the cause that I'll make sure all the technical difficulties. We haven't had a show in a while, and I've also upgraded. It's actually it's really cool when it all works. I got other cameras, and we got different feeds, and we'll have guests again, and it'll be great. So anyway, thank you to everyone who checked in with me and rock with me, and who loves this information. It warms my heart that we had some people tuning in and watching, and we'll be back next week, Monday, the 16th of December. I probably won't have a slew of guests because it's the holidays, and I don't want to bother people with guesting. We'll start ramping up again in January, but please do come back, and we'll talk about some of the things that are happening out in the world. I will have some thoughts about this Jay-Z thing, but as I mentioned in the newsletter, I'm not qualified because I don't know enough. All I know is what's been reported, which is all anybody knows. And I don't like wasting my time, putting out unvarnished opinions and theories, but the internet is full of people who do. So enjoy that. Enjoy your social media feeds of all the people who have something to say, even though they really don't have anything to say. So enjoy that. For the rest of us, and for the ones who want to hear about all the other things that are happening in hip hop, music, and culture, I'm your guy. The newsletter is your newsletter. The podcast is your podcast, and the live stream is the live stream. We'll be back next Monday night, God willing. Peace and love to you and yours in the meantime.